Hi there and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Deidre from Our Upcycled Life and I do lots of thrifting, upcycling, repurposing, and DIY content. And today we're making faux homemade paper. Making homemade paper is so much fun, but it's also a lot of work and it's time consuming. So I have a little bit of a cheat of how to make paper that looks almost like that, and it's lots of fun to create. So we have lots of work. Let's get started. And I also want to thank Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. Let's get started. To start this project, I have a piece of coffee stained paper and I want 1 ply of a napkin. Now this napkin's 3 plies, so I've just taken off that back 1 ply and we're gonna set that aside. Now to make our glue for this project, you can use Mod Podge, you can use Elmer's clear glue, you can use the school glue. All will work fine. So I'm using my clear school glue and I'm doing a 2-to-1 ratio with water. We just want to water it down a little bit. Now you want to gather some little bits of string, seeds, dried flowers. I like using tea leaves or a little bit of herbs. I've got some basil here, or coffee grinds, or leaves from outside that you can crumble. Just use your imagination and we're going to incorporate that into this paper. Make sure your glue and water mixture is incorporated really well together. Lay down that piece of paper on a sheet of parchment paper because we don't want it sticking to our table. I'm going to cover that whole piece of paper, making sure that I get right out to the edges. And then just get sprinkling your little bits of flour or your dried tea or coffee grinds. I've got some little pieces of thread that I had in my sewing kit that I cut up into small pieces, and I'm just laying them into that wet glue here and there. You want to make it look a little bit natural, so you don't want it all clumped up in one. Now these flowers, some of them I've gotten from my garden that I clipped and I dried and brought into the house. Some of them are from a bouquet that I got and I saved the flowers and dried them. I just have a little dish in one of my cabinets that I keep the dried flowers in for when I do a project like this. Now we're going to take that 1 ply of napkin and very carefully centering it on top of that paper, press it right into that wet glue and all the little bits that we sprinkled on the paper. And then take your glue solution with a paintbrush and paint right on top of that napkin another coat. And you want to go right out past the edge so you can seal it really well around the edges of that whole piece of paper. Cover the whole thing with a good amount. And like I said before, you can use school glue, you can use Mod Podge, you can use the clear school glue. All of this will work perfect for this project. Set it aside and let it dry completely. Once it's dry, take off that parchment paper. It'll peel right off of it. And then I like to take my scissors and trim right up to that piece of paper so it's nice and neat and tidy. Now this is just an option, but I have this corner cutter and I just love it. It rounds the corner and I just think it finishes off the paper really nicely. I'll put a link down below in the description for this cutter. So there is our faux piece of paper. And here's some other pieces that I've made. This is just on a piece of coffee dyed paper with just sprinkling different types of flowers and string and a little bit of tea and some herbs. Another coffee stain. Now this one I did on a piece of scrapbook paper. You can see the scrapbook paper show through. And then I had, instead of coffee dyeing it, I food color dyed it a little bit in a squirt bottle with some water and food coloring, and it gave that blue haze. This was one that I did on a printed sheet of one of my graphics and another piece of scrapbooking paper that I did this process on with the blue dye. Now I'm going to show you how I'm going to take one of these sheets of faux homemade paper I made and turn it into a beautiful journal. I had these coffee stained lined papers and we're going to use this as the outside cover for our journal. I'm going to fold our lined paper in half, making sure that it's even right across from the top to the bottom. Press it down really firmly and you're going to see the inside sheets stick out a little bit. So I'm going to put it on a cutting board and we're going to cut that so it's all even. Just using my little clips to hold everything in place, taking my ruler, and I'm going to use my X-Acto knife and trim everything up nice and even. It's handy doing this on a cutting board because you can line up your lines and make sure you're cutting a nice straight edge. I've got my inside of my journal already. I'm just going to measure it because I want to make my faux homemade paper a little tiny bit bigger than the lined sheets. So I'm just going to measure them out, and then I'm going to cut it with my cutter and fold it in half so it fits around those lined sheets. Now I've got some embroidery floss, and I'm just going to measure out 3 times the length of the journal. Cut it off, and then we're going to place it inside and measure 3 holes on the inside of our journal. I'm going to find the middle of it and use my pencil and mark that, and then I'm going to go 1 inch in from either end and make a little dot there. That's going to give us our guide for when we sew our journal all together. This is really simple. Don't be intimidated. I've got a little screwdriver, and I'm just punching a hole right where I made those 3 holes in the middle of the journal so we can see where we need to sew it through the back. I'm going to take my darning needle, and I'm going to go through that center hole, leaving a little bit of a tail. Come up through the top, pull the string through, go in through the bottom, pull the string through, making sure we're not pulling on that tail, leaving it, and then come up through the middle. And then we're going to tie a double knot, making sure that we're tying that string into the knot. We're then going to trim off the extra and fold it up, and making sure that it's nice and tight and all put together. I have this little clip that I cut out of a piece of scrapbooking paper. I thought it looked really nice with this homemade faux paper, and I'm just gluing it onto the front. I had some little bits of paper left over, so I'm going to actually turn this into a bookmark. I've got another piece of scrapbook paper. I'm going to glue it down on the back side of that faux homemade paper, making sure that it's bonded really well. I also wanted to round the corners of this little booklet once I had it made, so I got out that corner punch again and just finishes it off and makes it look really nice. And my homemade journal is all finished. I added a brad in the top and one of my homemade tassels. It's going to look perfect inside this little journal, and this is going to make a perfect Christmas gift. I've used just scrap paper that I coffee dyed, my homemade faux paper. I absolutely love it. Thanks for watching. Have a great day, and we'll see you in the next video. And if you love this video, I'm sure you'll love either of these next two. Thanks for watching.